this bolt right here. Use a 10mm socket. Take that bolt out, and you can grab the computer, just slide it towards the driver's side of the vehicle and flip it over. Just slide it to the side, out of the way. Disconnect the negative battery terminal. Just loosen it up. You just use a 10mm socket. Slide the terminal off. Set it to the side. You can do the same on the driver's side. Wiggle it back and forth and slide it to the side. Take these push pins off. Just use a trim tool. Should be 3. Those 2, and there should be one more right there. And flip this over out of the way. Remove this bracket. Use a 10mm socket. Take this nut off. And take this bolt off. Same 10mm socket. Grab the bracket, slide it out of the way, and grab the battery and take it out. Remove this bolt here, use a 10mm socket. Remove this nut right here, use a 10mm socket. And just slide this little bracket out of the way. That's for one of the AC lines. Now grab the bracket, and it should slide up out of the way. Remove these 3 bolts. Use a 13mm socket. Grab the bracket and slide it out. Flip this cover down, and we can take the fuse box off. Take the cover off first. Just push on these 2 lock tabs. Slide up. Remove this nut right here. Use an 8mm socket. And slide that wire off and out of the way. Remove this stud. Use a 10mm socket. Loosen that up. Take that off. And then take these wires off. If there's any other wires, take those off. Out of the way. Loosen up these bolts. They are caged, so they're not going to come off. You're going to use a 7mm socket. Just like that. And you can use a trim tool or a screwdriver. Just pry. There's some clips holding this on. Just pull up underneath with a little bit of pressure while you pop these off. On the other side as well. And just grab it and slide it up. And the connectors should pop off. You can push down on the bolts or just grab them from underneath. Pull down. You might have to twist them out a little bit more. There we go. Slide that out of the way. And just move this connector right here. Slide it out of the way. There's a bolt down here. Use a 10mm socket. Take that out. And use a magnet if you have to. Pull that out. Pop this hose off right here. Just use a trim tool. Slide that off. If there's a wire that's connected right there, use a trim tool. Slide that wire off. There's a retainer right here. Slide that off. And then the whole tray should slide up. Move those out of the way. There's wires attached to this bracket right here. Just use a trim tool and just pry those off. And on this side as well. Take this bracket off right here. Use a 10mm socket. Take that bolt out. Take the bracket off. Out of the way. There's the bolt. Now we're going to go support the transmission underneath the car. We're going to use a floor jack and a piece of wood just to prevent any damage. You just want to take a little bit of the pressure off of that mount. I'm going to remove these 3 bolts. Loosen them up first, use a 15mm socket. Alright, so the transmission didn't fall too much when we loosen those. That's good. And I'll just take them all out. There's 4 bolts holding this mount to the frame of the vehicle. There's 3 that you can see. They're 13mm bolts, and then there's 1 underneath you can't see. I'm going to first take those out using the 13mm socket. For the last one, I have to lower the transmission slightly, so just with the floor jack. You don't want to go too far, just a little bit. If you use a extension about this size with a shallow socket, you should be able to get it off. There we go, it's almost out. And just slide it out. And grab the mount, pull it to the side, just angle it. Should be able to slide it out. And it comes right out. And take the new mount and just slide it in the same way the old one came out. Get that lined up. And we can get that bolt started from underneath. Well, it's easy to access. And before we tighten it down, I'm going to get the other bolts started. Start tightening those down. Some of these are a little tricky to get to, so if you can torque that to those bolts to 20 foot-pounds with a torque wrench. Do the best you can. Now we're going to raise the transmission up with the floor jack. So that it gets closer to the mount. If you have to, you can use a pry bar and just pry these into place. Get that lined up. Once you get the first one in, started, it'll be a little bit easier. And start tightening these up. Adjust with the pry bar if you need to. Now torque these bolts to 37 foot-pounds. Now we're all set with the floor jack. You can lower that and slide this bracket back in place. There's 2 little ears that go through those slots. Take the bolt, get that started. Tighten it down. Reattach all the wires. Now this cage is going to go next. Get the harnesses out of your way. And then it's going to slide in over here on a clip. Line that up. Push it down. You can line those connectors up. And there's going to be a bolt that goes down there. Take that bolt, get it started. Snug it up. And line the other connectors up. Just like that. They should lock in place a little bit. Any of the wires that are attached, push those back in place. There's the connector right here. Gets lined up. Lock that in place. And some wire retainers, just push those on. Line the fuse box up. With it all lined up, just push it down. Get these all started by hand. And put this terminal on, or wiring harness, get that lined up just like it was. And you took it off. Put this stud on her bolt and tighten it down. Put this wire on, it goes on the fuse. Put the nut on, tighten that down. Put the fuse box cover. Make sure that's nice and secure. Slide this bracket in place. For the battery tray. Take this bracket, line this up. We're gonna make sure the power wire comes on the inside of the bracket. These two little ears are gonna go into those slots. Put this bolt in, tighten it down. Take the AC hose, line that bracket up. Put the nut on and tighten it down. Now I'll install the battery. We can connect the power wire, use a wrench and tighten that down. We can connect the ground wire, tighten this down. Now I'm going to pop that up again, line the bracket up. Get the bolt started and the nut. Tighten those down. Slide this trim down. Take the push pins, get those started, and lock them down. And if you have another one, put that one there. Take the computer. These two ears are going to go in those slots right there. And take the bolt, get that started, and snug it down.